The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. Coming to you cordless. It's Tuesday night, March 24th, 2026. I am Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 329. Mark your scorecards at home. Our guest tonight is Mark Quann. He is the head and president and CEO of the Remy Group, and also he started an education website called The Perfect Portfolio, which teaches advanced tax avoidance tips, and his new book is called Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes. We're going to talk about money today, and here's Mark from his office in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. So we were talking before you went went on here, and you brought this up, and I was going to mention this anyway. So you grew up in Canada, and I take it from your biography, it was basically a working class family, right?
Yeah, lower middle class. We were pretty poor.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you had nothing. Yeah,
do
we were
you
living
have any
in.
idea? Did that spur your impetus or your intrinsic fascination with money? I mean, some people just seem to be born into stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, we have like generational poverty on for three generations that I know of. Like we never inherited anything. There was no real estate, no stocks, no savings, nothing. For some reason, my family for three generations on both sides never figured it out. I mean, my dad was born in Newfoundland. That's like poor Irish fishermen that they had nothing,
Right,
So
right.
yeah, we had nothing when I was growing up. We lived in a social build. I lived in government systems sometimes, and when there was no construction work. And yeah, so I was just really poor and I hated it. I literally hated it. So I started getting very interested in money, and my mother called me Money Mark because I wouldn't stop talking about how to make money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, the problem is education, isn't it? People just don't know, right?
it's also it's education, but it's also it's the problem is there's no financial education, and the problem is there is financial education. Because I was a financial advisor for 15 years. I used to train financial advisors in California, and what people think is financial education isn't financial education. It's banking education, right? And realize that So I would say we need financial education, but when it's provided by Wall Street and big government, that's not financial education. That's education to turn your family into a passive income stream for Wall Street and big government.
And
I
I
mean,
hate
so
it sounds like I'm getting off track here, but I'm not. Is that deliberate? Do you think there's any sort of grand plan here to keep people ignorant? I mean, because you brought up, and now forgive me, I haven't read your book. We booked you only a
yeah.
couple days ahead of time. But I'm under the impression here that your philosophy, although it seems extremely solid to me, is still relatively unorthodox, isn't it, in the grand scheme of things?
Not not really. I mean, a lot of the billionaires that became billionaires used this
Yeah,
in the Great Depression.
I was
It's
going to say that.
simple.
Yeah, let me qualify that. Yes,
Yeah.
wealthy people do exactly what you're talking about, but the
Yeah.
the fact that the average person can do it seems to have kind of been lost, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's they won't teach you this. So that's funny. I used to train financial advisors and I was the advisor for CPAs. They didn't learn it. And we were in Southern California. The strategy comes from the University of Southern California, right? You would think that people would be taught it there, but my COO went to Edward McCaffrey's class. He's the guy who coined the strategy, and he sat in his class a long time ago, and he wouldn't even teach it to the students. So for some reason, I think when you asked if it's deliberate, I'm like, yes, it is deliberate, and here's why. There's a system that I wrote about in my first book. It's called Rich Man, Poor Bank: What the Banks Don't Want You to Know About Money. So I wrote about this in 2009. And basically, there's a system that the banks use to essentially indoctrinate your children. Okay, it's sell them 5 products. They figured out it's called stickiness. All right, it works in the banking, it works in the financial industry. They figured out that if you give a person 5 products from one company, they'll become loyal to that company. They won't change. So that's why they go, hey, you need to save money, get good credit. Then you go get the kids get a checking account, a free checking account and free savings account. Like, oh, that's cool. You think this is good. And then they go, oh, you need to get a good credit. So here, we'll get you a credit card. They sold you 3. They go, oh, get a Roth IRA and a mutual fund. They sold you 5 products, right? You'll keep going back to them. And it's it. And then you keep going back to a company which has a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders. That means maximize profitability at all costs for every customer. So how do they make money? Charging you fees, paying you nothing, and making sure you don't learn the actual strategies to get wealthy. Because if you did, you wouldn't need a financial advisor anymore. So it confuses you, sell you 5 or 6 or 7 products. People become loyal. It's stickiness, and they'll keep going back to the banks generationally. When the bank makes money, if you struggle, they want you to keep your head just above water, and they're maximizing profitability.
And so, geez, I just lost my train of thought. It's terrible. Well, the idea is right. The idea is basically to make certain that you're kind of fat, happy, and stupid, huh? It's like,
Yeah, it just
you're not gonna be that fat. You're not, but you're
no.
fat enough.
Yeah, you just keep you good enough where you think you're winning, but you're
Yeah,
not. You know what I mean? And
right.
you're not going to win, right? And the strategy is simple that I teach, and I didn't just I kind of came across this by mistake, I guess. Um, and in the financial industry, if you have a financial advisor and your net worth is under 25 million, you're going to be spoon fed all the stuff: 401k, Roth IRA, get a mutual fund, all that stuff. That's just like under 25 million. If you ever jump over the 25 million, they go, hey, all that other stuff. They go, hey, we'll set you up a stock portfolio and it'll grow. And then if you never sell, you'll never pay taxes. And then they take low interest loans secured by the portfolio because they never trigger the capital gains taxes because they don't sell, and loans aren't taxable, and they just grow those assets generation and generation. They can own a stock for 100 years in their family and they just never sell it.
Right.
They just keep passing it from generation to generation, never paying taxes. And they take loans. Loans aren't taxable. So you completely circumvent the US tax system, and anybody can do it. We started doing it with students who are new to investing. They put $100 in a brokerage account. We started teaching it to them about 5 years. So we've been doing this for about 5 years, teaching ordinary Americans how to do this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're talking about people who have more than $25 million, but yeah, you can do this with $100. That's the
You really can. Yeah, you got to have at least 2,000. So the market, that's not that large of a number, but yeah, we start people with $100 and we go, hey, here's how it works, and then they learn, and then they can grow. They can just buy stocks and ETFs in their phone. There's a program that manages your portfolio for free. You don't need a financial advisor for it. You just fund it forever. You never sell it. You never pay taxes. There's a borrow button. You can borrow at low interest rate with no application, no credit check. It doesn't report to your credit, and there's no required payments on the loans.
so
You'd be
I
like,
have a
that's too,
friend.
yeah.
I have
Go
to
ahead.
tell you, I have a friend here in town. We're in Minneapolis. I have a friend. He's a CFO of a very large holding company in Washington, D.C. He makes a lot of money. He
Yeah.
bought a house recently in town here for well over $1 million. And
Yeah.
he said, well, and obviously, I'm not going to name him, but
Yeah,
he
for
said,
sure.
Jim, so I got a quandary. He said, and I'm not in his league, but that's fine,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he said, I got a quandary. I can afford to pay cash for this $1 million house. I can't.
Yep.
I don't know if I should. And he said, there's something there, and you even, I think, address this in your book about there's the comfortableness of knowing that your house is paid off. He said,
Right.
he's about 70. He said, I'm probably never going to move again. It's just, and he said, and this was about 3, 4 years ago. So he said, well, I really decided after thinking about it. No, I took out a mortgage on the house and I
Yep.
invested the rest of the money. And he says, I'm so glad I did. He says, I'm making so much more money on the investments than I would be paying on the interest and taxes or the interest on the loan that it's not even funny, which is basically a perfect example of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I just did a post on this morning on X or whatever. People were like, "I'm gonna pay off my home." I'm like, "Okay, so First of all, you're ignoring math and taxes and inflation. So if you ignore math, taxes, and inflation, great, pay off your home. Because when you pay off your home, you're killing your money. I mean, there's people with 3% interest mortgages and they're stuffing it off. So you're killing your money. You could be investing it somewhere else. Two, when you pay down the mortgage, you actually increase your taxes because your tax deductions go down. Right. So you're like voluntarily paying more taxes for the next 30 years or whatever, pay it off in 20 years. Um, and then you're not fighting inflation. So the house goes up with inflation. It's not like the debt disappears because you're paying it off. The house goes up with inflation. The debt disappears with inflation because it's priced in US dollar. The rich aren't paying off their homes, they're buying more real estate because that's what's making them rich. And they buy real estate with 3 to 5% down. The house that I'm in is $500,000. We bought it with 22 grand all in, right? Boom. And then we buy it. I don't care. I'll never pay it off because the real estate's going to go up. Within 10 years, this house will be will be worth $1 million. Paying extra principal doesn't help me get wealthy. I'll take that money and buy more real estate, buy more stocks, buy more ETFs, gold and silver ETFs, Bitcoin ETFs. Getting wealthy is easy. You have to delete everything you've ever learned. Like you literally have to just press delete and go, we have homeschool students as young as 9, they're learning it. They learn at lightning speeds. They literally get it in 2 minutes. That's all they know. We're teaching them how to think like billionaires and they're 9 years old. Our youngest student right now. My oldest student is 95, former fighter pilot, and he's just as excited. He's 95 and he's like, are you kidding me? I'm learning the buy, borrow, die strategy at 95 years old, right? He's excited. I have clients making over 100 million a year. I work with those guys. I work with people who have $100 and they've never invested before. So we're running the range from everybody of every income, background, financial education. The only thing we need is somebody who's ethical, somebody who's excited to learn. They're actually excited to learn something new. And then they're just intelligent. They can kind of change their views on things. They can actually analyze something and come to a different conclusion, right, than what they believe their entire life. But it's just so easy. It's so much easier to teach kids because they don't have to unlearn.
I I don't want to get off track here, but
Yeah.
you just brought up something that I think is a general problem in society anyway, and that is about half of the people in America or the world are willing to learn something new and change their mind, and the other half aren't. What do you? How do you? Can you have an explain? Not a rhetorical question. Can you explain that?
Yes, it's called neuroplasticity. Okay. Neuroplasticity is your ability to evaluate and solve problems, right? To change. So when you're really young, neuroplasticity is incredibly fast, right? You can learn languages and learn
Yeah,
really, really fast, right? So you teach this stuff kids when they're like teenagers, like from age 6, you start teaching them this, they will become billionaires. There's no doubt about it. You couldn't stop them if you wanted to, because the compounding of buying investments forever and never sell them, it just goes crazy, right? So no, as you get older, it's less. It takes more effort to learn, but it takes persistence, right? It's repetition. If you believe save money, get good credit, pay off my home, fund a retirement account, if you don't get rid of that, you're not going to win because you've been taught the things that make government bigger and fund Wall Street. So you have to unlearn before you learn. Neuroplasticity, it takes longer when you're older, but it is possible. You just have to willing to do it. Again, I got the 95-year-old. He's awesome. He's a former fighter pilot. Just so excited to be learning this stuff at age 95. He's like, man, I'm going to learn this stuff. I'm going to teach my grandkids. I'll teach the kids, and he's pretty excited about it.
I have a reputation on here for coming up with conspiracy theories, and here's one of them. Uh,
Yeah.
I I do not understand why we don't teach basic economics in high school. We are the richest nation on earth, the most capitalist country in the world, and we don't teach this stuff. I just find this unbelievable. And so I'm starting to think it's basically kind of a liberal plot. I think if you keep, I mean, I probably don't have to tell you this. I have a lot of economists on the show.
Yeah.
It's actually a proven fact. The more you study economics, the more conservative you have a tendency to be. You know, so I sometimes I think that's literally they're literally not teaching it because they don't want people to figure it out.
Yeah, again, when you say they don't teach it, that's really bad. But when they start teaching it, that creates some problems because
They're
then
teaching it
you
wrong.
get You like double down on the bad ideas that are building it. And you have to realize the regulatory authority for the financial industry, and I didn't know this when I was a financial industry, they're a private company. They're the company that produces all the financial literacy. They're a private company. They're funded by the banks, the same mega banks who, funded the Epstein, bank accounts and the Bernie Madoff bank accounts and were laundering money for the drug cartels. Those are the same companies and same people that are providing the financial literacy for the financial advisors. So you're like, I'm going to go get a financial advisor. You're not getting a financial advisor. I was a fiduciary financial advisor for a publicly traded company. And I was, this is a fraud. I was like, this whole industry is a fraud. So I left in 2018. The whole industry, all my bosses, all their executives, I sat in their meetings. They're all a fraud too. I'm not going to name the company that I worked for because I don't want to get sued, right? But yeah,
Uh,
it was just fraud. The meetings they were having, when you set up a retirement account for a company, they're not talking about the employees are going to retire. They're talking about their assets under management to build passive income. The company celebrates because they save a massive amounts in taxes. They lock you into working until you're 65 to 70. So you're going to pay income taxes. You're going to get, and Wall Street locks in their passive income streams. You're going to get hammered in taxes when you retire. And the social and your social security, which was supposed to be tax free, the 401k distributions can trigger the taxes on your social security payments and double tax you on the back. That's exactly how a 401k works. You're like, oh, I'm going to get a retirement account. The word retirement account, where did it come from? It was created by Wall Street to get you to think a certain way so they could sell you a retirement account. So the only solution you have is that go put all my money in a retirement account so I can retire. See what I mean? The
yeah,
wordings, the system, it's all very devious, right?
right. Yeah,
So, and then they sell you the 5 products: save money, get good credit. You're thinking that's so harmless: save money, get good credit, right? The rich just invest. They borrow without a credit check. I could have no job and a 500 credit score. I can borrow money at 4.65% whenever I want. I don't
yeah.
need bank approval. I don't jump through hoops, right? This is
Well,
how the rich teach their kids.
I grew up in
So
a small town, and we had and the bank in our town, the major bank. I could literally just walk in and just ask for a loan. Like, how much do you want?
sure.
Sign here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just simple. You actually, so you're talking about the 5 products. You're talking about the 5 pillars of investing, and those are. I'm going to. This is from you: stocks, real estate, life insurance, crypto, and precious metals. And I'm kind of surprised you put crypto in there. Because all right, so I have to tell you, I've been going on for 20 years about the fact that crypto is bullshit. I have.
Okay.
So, but now I have a regular caller into the show, and I'm going to mention him.
Yeah.
Basically, become a guest at this point. His name is Think, or his pseudonym, and
Sure.
he has convinced me. He's a younger guy. He's convinced me that crypto and that Bitcoin is actually a real thing. I mean, I've always looked at this as the tulips of the 1600s,
Oh my
but he says, but his thing is that it's a place. Basically, it's a place to park your money. And okay, that's fine. I understand that. To me, it's neither a commodity nor a currency, and therefore it's crap. Explain this to me.
Well, okay. So, first of all, first time I saw Bitcoin, I was like, I'm all in. I was like, you kidding me? A decentralized currency that the government has no control over and not controlled by the banks. I'm like, I'm in, right? So I was in heavily on Bitcoin then. So basically, you have to define what is money. Okay, money is anything enough people agree it has value. 2, it must be easily transferable. And 3, it must have limited supply. Okay. So technically, the only non-real money here is US dollars. They can print as
Yeah,
many as they want. They can put numbers on it, and then they can create 9 more as digital
I do have to
entries.
ask you, if you're using money as a means of exchange or barter, do you actually need a limited supply of money? Because I mean, no, we have a Federal Reserve that prints money all the time. It's decided how much to print. I mean, is that
Anything with limited supply goes up in value. Anything with unlimited supply goes down in value. Period. That's it. I mean, they
right?
can. There's a purse that they create, and they sell it for $500,000 for a purse. Why? Because they create one, and let's say the princess of something can buy it. Now there's only one of them. Then they can buy it for 500. They could sell it for 1 million. Anything with limited supply goes up, and anything goes down. So toilet paper has more of a store of value than US dollars because toilet paper has been going up in value and dollars are going down in value. So toilet paper, limited supply. Anything with limited supply goes up. Anything with unlimited supply goes down. It's literally that simple. So
Yeah,
Bitcoin, But the reason that Harvard bought 118 million of this stuff is they finally got it. They're like, whoa, hundreds of millions of people believe this thing has value, so we're not going to sell it. We know we can buy it forever, and eventually it has limited supply. Even there's a halving cycle that goes in every year. Every day they have Bitcoin, it's harder and more expensive to produce. So it
Yeah,
even makes the scarcity even tighter, right? So
right. That's right.
95% of it's
People don't realize this. There is a limited finite supply to Bitcoin. At some point,
21 million. Yeah, and 95% already exist, right? So not,
right.
there's 5% of the Bitcoin which will be created, and that's it. So whoever
Yeah,
buys it up, that's it. And it has limited supply and it can be easily transferred. I bought something from another country for my sister the other day. She was going to pay the banks $135 for an international bank wire. I sent Bitcoin. It cost 56 cents.
right.
I could do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. 56 cents. I can send it there and purchase a product around the world. No banking, no government service, no government to get in my way. You know what I mean?
And
So
that is, you're right.
it's
That is the very attractive thing about it. The government isn't involved.
absolutely. And it's also, you have to realize that, in other countries like Venezuela or countries that are losing the value of their money, the only thing they can do is buy crypto. Because here's why. The stable coins are US dollar, right? So if you get your paycheck and it's losing money every second, you got to put it in stable coins in your phone. That's priced in US dollars. So yes, you get wealthy because your currency is going down. The US dollar is holding value. So in other countries, it's pulling people out of poverty because they can go get an iPhone, they can get a phone, they can open a wallet, they can buy stable coins, which are priced to the US dollar. They actually get wealthy just by getting out of their own currencies. If they buy Bitcoin and their US dollar, they're doing it. So it's an amazingly cool thing. I mean, Bitcoin is the future of money, right? The only thing that's not the future of money is these things called Federal Reserve notes, because that hasn't been real money since 1971.
Yeah, well, that's basically a Ponzi scheme, isn't it?
It is a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So everything has a start and end. See, with money printing,
Did we lose you? Hold on.
the people in the early,
Keep talking, Mark. We can hear you. No, we can't. Oh shit. Al Gore didn't do a good enough job inventing this interweb thing.
so basically the
All right, you're gonna have to start over. Sorry.
now. So the people in the early stages of money printing love it because the government prints money, man. Everybody starts getting wealthy, right? They just printing it. There are more government workers, more jobs, right? And then there's more jobs, and then the people start companies, and it's great. So the people in the early stages of money printing, they get wealthy. They love it. But eventually that money starts chasing homes and homes get more expensive or whatever. So it's money printing works great if you're the earliest on the chain, right? At the end, everything gets so expensive it destroys the middle class. It pushes everybody into poverty. And the people that use the strategies that I use, they get super wealthy because we get to our real estate goes up as our dollar disappears. If I don't pay off my home, all my real estate, I never try and pay it off, and I just buy more. If the dollar crashes, all my debt disappears
Yeah, well, I
because it's
mean,
priced in US
one
dollar.
of the primary things of your philosophy here, which I totally agree with, and I think is that you never sell an asset ever. I mean,
Never sell an asset. No, you imagine stocks that your grandfather had or something like that in the Great Depression, and he held all those shares and he kept buying them his entire life, and you inherited it. You know what I mean? Or your father had inherited it and then he passed it to you. The wealth that they build is unstoppable because if you never sell assets, you keep buying forever, and then you borrow from another asset to buy the other asset. It's just you get wealthy. And Bitcoin, gold, silver, commodities, real estate, anything with limited supply. It's
so
that
the other
simple.
thing I want to ask you about regarding the crypto thing is, can you explain ETFs to us? Because I gotta admit,
Oh, ETFs are simple. Think of it as a box or a cup.
first of all, what does
You
that
can
stand for? ETF.
exchange traded fund.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, it's just think of it like a bucket. I could put Bitcoin, gold, silver inside this bucket, and I can hold all three inside of it. And they can actually trade it. They could literally get Bitcoin, gold, and silver inside. If they're trading in here, there's no taxes. So you just hold the ETF. You never sell it. They may trade in it, but there's no taxes inside of it and you just buy it, never sell it. So there's there's all kinds of things. There's one that's Bitcoin and gold. It's 100% exposure to Bitcoin, 100% to gold. And then if one goes up, they sell it and buy the other, and then the other goes down, they sell it. And that's how you're using Bitcoin and gold. You can do what's called a covered call. It's a complex options trade where they trade options and generate, let's say, a 14% annual dividend. You just buy the ETF. They do all the work for you. You do nothing, and it kicks off a 14% annual dividend. And it's an
No,
ETF. You just buy it. What's
I'm
that?
not kidding. I'm going to buy your book. This
Yeah,
is
totally. I also interviewed all the fund managers on my YouTube channel. Like I know all the fund managers that build all the coolest innovative funds. I've got them on our YouTube channel at P2 Wealth is our YouTube channel. The Perfect Portfolio, tons of content there. I've got 4 books on this. I got tons of YouTube videos.
let's
But no,
put your
you can retire fairly quick, right? If you know what you're doing.
put your book on the screen here. I know you have it behind you, but here it is,
Yeah.
the latest one. And then it was what was it? Oh Jesus, hold on a second. Get Rich Go Bank, was it? What was it
Oh,
called?
Rich Man, Poor Bank was about the
Rich Man
banking
Go
industry.
Bank.
That was my first one. And then I wrote Top 10 Ways to Avoid Taxes. But if you go Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes, that's the one with it summarizes all four books. All 4 books sort of come together. And then this buy, borrow, die strategy it's how families get super wealthy. And there's strategies in the book that can't be off that aren't in the book that can be offered to accredited investors. So if somebody has a net worth of over $1 million, man, there's even more powerful strategies which I use. But again, we can't really mention them in the book. But they're very well, the strategies in the book can make anybody wealthy.
Yeah,
It's
the fascinating thing here is, like you said, if you have at least $2,000, you can do this. That's the
Yeah,
real.
you could put $2,000 and if they're trading options, you're making money when you're not working. When you're doing nothing, you're making money. If you just
So
keep buying it, you just keep making more money every day. If you reinvest the dividends, it's buying 14% more, even if you don't buy it yourself.
you've alluded to this during this conversation. That I'm going to bring up this up explicitly about the fact that there's a lot of people since the Civil War, a lot of families, 6, 7 generations that are still broke. And a lot of people will attribute this to racism. And I always said, no, it's a socioeconomic problem. It actually has nothing to do with the race per se. That might have
Right.
started it, but that's not the reason it's going on now. And so
Yeah.
now you have, like you said, you have roughly half families that have figured this out, or someone in the families figured this out. And then you have families that don't figure it out. So, and I guess I don't know. I don't have a question here. It's terrible because I'm a terrible.
Uh, I don't know. I just market. Some people see it, some people don't. Some people are like, Dave Ramsey is not right. I hate to say it. Dave Ramsey is a great guy. If somebody can't control their habits, they can't keep themselves from off their credit cards, they just keep doing it, they need Dave Ramsey. For people that actually want to dig in a little bit and read a book and you have to spend 100 hours on this. You have to unlearn. If you
Yeah,
didn't know anything, you can learn it instantly, but you're gonna have to
you,
unlearn. So
you brought something up
I don't have
there.
the solution. And on the racism thing, guess what? Money doesn't discriminate. It
No,
doesn't care. You
that-
either understand money or you don't. So
that's
anybody
right.
can get rich in the United States. In
Right.
fact, I'll go with this.
Yeah.
This is the easiest time ever to get wealthy ever in the history of humanity. Here, inflation makes you wealthy. Why? Because anybody can, if as long as you can earn income, you can invest it in your iPhone and generate income when you're not working. Okay, as though that account grows, you can press a button and buy more and create more income, and it's never taxed. You just created money by doing nothing. Anybody can just follow that path and get financially free. And if you have any questions, bring out AI and ask them. You can learn 50 years of you can learn what I learned in 20 hours instead of 60,000 hours. Because I looked at it, I was like, I probably spent 60,000 hours and over $200,000 invested in me learning. And I spent $600,000 of my own money to run the company to make sure it was working and to prove it could work. So I'm in this for 700K and 20,000 hours. So, hey, maybe the book's worth 12 bucks.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon, 12
Well,
bucks on Amazon. Like,
you
come
know,
on.
I'm not trying to hep you up here, but it's really true. You spend $12 on a book, it's well worth the trouble. I mean, not just what you're doing, but when anybody in nonfiction, the amount of time that's plowed into a book is ridiculous. Most
Yeah.
people don't realize that.
I've got lots of people that are, I have people that became millionaires in this course in the past 4 years. They started at 300 and they crossed the million. So we're going to create a million new millionaires. I stated that 5 years ago when I started the company. I'm like, what's my goal? We're going to create a million new millionaires.
Yeah.
I
I
know it's happening because I see it every day. We're lots of referrals. We have referrals, people who refer people and refer people and refer people and refer people, and then they're teaching their kids and their parents and their kids, and I mean, it's awesome. It's becoming a thing for ordinary people to use the buy, borrow, die strategy.
yeah, politically, there's everyone talks about the inequality in the United States. The fact well, first of all, and I'm constantly harping on this, Mark. There's only 1,000 billionaires in the entire U.S. There's 340 million people. There's 1,000 people with assets of over $1 billion. Big freaking
Right.
deal. That's nothing.
Right.
Secondly, and I don't have to explain this to you either. The thing about capitalism is that it's not a fixed pie of money. Just because someone else has more, it doesn't mean someone else has less. That's the other thing
Right.
that people don't understand too. And so, and then on top of that, if you're talking about inequality, and people say, well, the problem is there's a whole bunch of people getting poorer. And I said, no, that's not what's going on here. And you just alluded to this. About half the public is getting poorer, and the other half is getting richer. That's what's happening here. You know?
Yeah, and I mean that has to do with financial education, but there's a lot of
Yeah,
underlying problems there. I mean, because some people don't want people and there's more money in government keeping people dependent on government. That's a big problem, right? And
yeah,
it's like,
it is.
California, they're like, let's fix the homeless problem, pump
Yeah,
money to it, but then they actually keep people homeless. I mean,
right.
it's just crazy. So,
Well, yeah, they don't make
um,
any money if they solve the problem. That's
no, they don't. They don't. Government budgets get there's a use it or lose it in the government. So if you have $1 million and you don't spend it, they're not going to renew it. So you're going to spend your million. So you get 10 million next year. You're like, I don't need 10 million, but I got to spend it, don't I? So then you hire your friends. Just that things you're rewarded for massive fraud, waste,
yeah,
abuse. They're rewarded for it every single year. The person who's financially looking at their budgets, they're penalized. That's an insane model. I mean,
I
the
know.
reason we have poverty is government. The government prints money and the government spends money and the government regulates and taxes. That's the reason we have poverty.
Yeah,
There's some other factors for sure, but it's the government. They're running the printing press. They get to spend it first. They must spend it all. When they spend it all, it creates inflation, and inflation transfers money from the poorest people on the planet to the richest and makes government bigger. Period. That's it.
yeah.
It's the government's fault.
Oh, you said that. That's fantastic the way you put that. I'm glad you explained that because I know you're right. I know that's true. You
Yeah,
know.
there's some villains and stuff, and there's some guys who are like kind of shady or whatever, but it's the government's fault. The government has the printing press. Whoever's closest to the printing press gets wealthy. See, when you use buy, borrow, die, you are the printing press. I print my own money. I just borrow money to buy real estate. I printed it. I invest, I borrow, I print more money. I
Here's
print money
another.
every day.
Here's a
What's that?
quote from your book. I think you've explained this, but we can talk about this a little more. The number one rule in my investing is simple. If you can't use other people's money to invest, it is not a good investment, period, no exceptions. And so other people's money includes loans, right?
Yeah, it's just debt. When I buy this real estate, I'm sitting in a really nice house. I didn't buy, I printed money. Essentially, I signed a mortgage document. They created 500,000 digital entries in a computer. People call it money. It's just digital entries. I signed a paper. They created it. So now I own this house. Who cares if I have a mortgage payment? The house is going to go up. It'll double because of inflation. So this house that I'm buying for 500, it'll be worth a million within 10 years in Knoxville. I do nothing. My net worth goes up 500,000 without work or taxes. Inflation builds your wealth. You don't need to work. You need to have a high financial IQ. That's
Yeah,
it. To get
yeah,
rich in America, you don't need to work hard. You need to have evaluate the system, understand how it works. You need to initially work to make the money, right?
of
I
course.
just solve problems. That's why I make money. I'm a business owner. I solve problems. I'm like we have a massive problem with middle class falling into poverty. I'm like, I need to fix that problem, right? That's why I wrote the book. That's why I wrote all the books, and that's why I started the company. It's not like I made money with this thing. I had to pump money into this thing for years. Right now we're making money, but I had to, put a lot of cash into it to get it going. So,
Yeah,
you have to be willing to work and solve problems, right? So,
right. So I assume you moved to Tennessee at least partially because of the no state taxes.
No, not, I don't care. I can not pay taxes. I can live in California and not pay taxes. I know how to do that. So no, it's just it wasn't that. It was like California's not the nicest place to work anymore. I was going to use a word, but
No,
it's
it
kind of
isn't.
a something hole. It's a
I
S,
was telling you before we went on the air, I
hole.
lived there 40 years ago, and yeah, it was
Yeah,
kind of
it was a shithole. It was. And when I say that, I mean actual. It was. There was the homeless people going to the bathroom on the hall. Like,
yeah,
in I was in a luxury building in Woodland Hills, California. There was people going to the bathrooms in the hallways in the parking garages because there was so many homeless around people. I mean, this was a really nice neighborhood at one point, and there was literally the garbage was stinks. It was like there was people in the building with ankle bracelets and stuff in a luxury neighborhood. I was like, this is insane. I'm paying massive amounts of rent in this place. I was like, I got to go to Tennessee. There's
yeah.
some sanity there.
Well,
So
talking
that's
about insanity, what do you think about this plan in California to start taxing billionaires' assets?
Well,
I just
they can
think,
try it. No, they're all gone.
well,
They're
right,
probably all gone, and they'll be
that's
gone by the
right.
time they put the tax in, right?
That's
I left because I don't want to pay. I don't want to fund more homelessness with my money, right? I still have to pay some taxes. I have to pay some payroll taxes on W-2. That's fine, income or whatever. Most of the part, I can avoid most forms of income tax or capital gains taxes, right? So, and anybody can just learn, right? I can rent
yeah,
property. This rental property gives me depreciation, which depreciation wipes out my income. That's in the book. It's
right.
accelerated and bonus depreciation in that big, beautiful bill, right? Real estate professional status. These things are all in the book. This is how rich people don't pay taxes. And then you don't pay taxes 1 year and you invest it all. Those investments grow and compound. You never sell them. As they grow bigger, you borrow from them to buy more assets. Those assets grow and it just compounds, right?
It sounds like I'm going to be kissing your ass here, and I'm not. Uh, you have done a true service to the American public because people need to realize you're right that the almost all the tricks that really wealthy people use can be used by the average person, and most people don't know that. And I would like to thank you. Serious. You're not paying me here or anything. We're just
Yeah,
you
shooting
spent
the shit, right? So just
you
hey,
spent
yeah,
20 years of your life developing this. Because it's people need to know this stuff.
yeah. Well, I hated being poor, so I can feel for being poor, and I don't
Yeah,
want the middle class to fall into poverty, right?
right. Yeah,
It's hard to pull people out of poverty. It's much easier to take the middle class and prevent them from falling in poverty. Make sense?
yeah.
Just so much easier. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
right. Mark, I'm gonna
yeah.
let you go. I really appreciate your time. This has been really fascinating. I am.
Oh yeah.
I'm not even gonna I could actually ask your publicist for a galley copy of your book. I'm gonna buy it.
All right, great, awesome. And
That's
then tell you what, if you buy it and you have any questions, reach out to my team at the Perfect Portfolio. Let them know we did
yeah,
an interview, and I'm more
that's
than happy to
that's
do this again, or just I'll show you where to put your first $100.
it's at theperfectportfolio.com.
Theperfectportfolio.com. Yeah, just reach out to us. I'm pretty easy to get hold of on social media. Just mention what we interviewed in there, and then I'll show you how to set up your first $100 in these strategies. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
no
You
problem.
take
All
care.
right, good
Talk to you
talking to
again.
you. We'll talk again soon.
Our thanks to Mark Quan there. That's information that you need. And that's what I'm trying to do here. It's like, there's a whole bunch. Yeah, I'm trying to make real information as entertaining as possible. That's what I'm trying to do. So you can read the Daily Mail, you can read TMZ, all that sort of stuff, and you get a bunch of gossip that may be highly entertaining. But the thing is, it doesn't add anything to your life. Does it matter what Meghan and Prince Harry did? No, it doesn't. Does it matter that The Bachelorette got canceled? Only in the terms of the larger thing of media and TV in general. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. Now I understand. You're due for your entertainment. I understand. But still, this is I'm trying. No one talks about this stuff. Shit. I don't know. I was talking to Mark there. I've almost concluded that the lack of teaching economics in high school in America is a liberal plot. That it's almost a conspiracy theory. I've almost concluded that. Seriously, the single most capitalist and richest country in the world doesn't teach their citizens even basic economics. It's like during the Biden administration, So uh, uh, oh, um, we're going to pass this giant bill that's going to flood all this money into the economy. Well, yeah, you're going to make money worthless. I mean, any jerk, any first year freshman economics student could have told you that was going to cause inflation. And everybody did. Everybody said it. I did too. This is going to cause inflation. And it did. And then they said, oh, it's only transitory. No, it wasn't transitory. You put a bunch of worthless money into the market. It's like, so that's just one little example, you know. But the vast majority of the public, they didn't have a clue about what happened. All they knew is that prices went up. That's all they know. And this is the same thing's going to happen here. Now the Republicans have a little bit of a quandary here because their prices don't go down by the midterm elections by October. If they don't go down, the Republicans are screwed. Right now, I actually think this. I'm making my prediction. I reserve the right to change it until the night before the election, but I think that right now the Republicans will end up keeping their razor thin majorities in both the Senate and the House. I think it's going to come out almost identical. That's what I think. Now, it's not going to be obviously different people are going to win and lose races. I'm talking about the actual numbers. I think it will be almost identical. And even if the Democrats do win the House, they will also win by razor thin majority. Same thing that the Republicans have now. But that's my prediction. But that's kind of beside the point. So I thought we go on, in the theme of economics here and minding your money. Let's go to Cuba, which is going down the tubes. Now, Cuba's been going down the tubes for 60 years, and now people are really noticing it. Cuba has the same problem that Iran had, and this got a lot. David Strom was on here last week, and he pointed this out. I knew this, but I have not pointed out enough. The thing I pointed out is the fact that people don't understand. It's become completely lost. This whole thing with Iran war started because the economy of Iran collapsed. The real, their currency, is now worthless. And so why? You got a double whammy here. They're trying to the Iranian government is trying to keep people from protesting, but why not protesting? Why not protest when you don't have a job? Or you do have a job, but they're not paying you anymore. Same like with the TSA agents now. People aren't showing up for work. Do you blame them? They're not getting paid. So in Iran, the real ends up being worthless. Suddenly the currency collapses. Why go to work? You're not going to get any money. Might as well go into the street and protest. Now they killed 30,000 protesters. It's really, really, these people are just brutal. I mean, the Iranians have been, they're beyond evil. They're monstrous. That's all there's to it. I mean, the government. I'm not talking about the citizens. Matter of fact, that's a real problem. The citizens of Iran, the Iranian society is actually pretty cool. It really is. But they're being run by these despots and dictators that won't let them. There's a famous picture that's been floating around the internet for the last couple of weeks now. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a picture of Iranian college women in 1975, I think, and today. In 1975, they look just like Americans. They have short skirts on. They're talking. They have nice, cute little haircuts. They're westernized people. And now today, the picture from 2026, they're wearing hijabs. They're all completely covered, all of them. This is bullshit. And it also points to what David Strom and a lot of other people have been talking about too, is about importing Muslim culture into Western society, and that is they're intrinsically incompatible. They are the Muslim nations. No, I want to make sure I get this right. Muslim cultures are about 200 years behind Christian Judeo-Western cultures. They just are. That's all there is to it. They're 200 years behind us. And they want, and it's like it's really draconian stuff. And the fact that women think this is, about protesting, I just find this amazing. It's the thing, the whole Queers for Palestine thing. I've been laughing about this for since we started the show. For 3 years, I've been laughing about this. Queers for Palestine. Yeah, yeah. Go over there. You try that. That's yeah, yeah. And then the gays for Gaza. Yeah, you try that too. It's like it's just a giant joke. But the thing is, there's a lot of these people don't understand it. They don't. It's like the irony escapes them. And so then we get to Cuba. So Code Pink, which is a far left liberal organization, they sent a flotilla basically to Cuba with a bunch of supplies and to support the Cuban people and the Cuban government. Rah. Yeah, let's hear it for communism. And their complaint is that the reason Cuba's failing is because they have not been propped up appropriately by the United States, the capitalist country that they hate, which are looking to support the communist country, which can't support itself because it doesn't make any money. There's no, seriously, I can't understand the stupidity of this anymore. I just don't. I have friends, liberal friends, who tell me, that this thing about this capitalism thing isn't working anymore. We got to try socialism. Excuse me. Here's the deal. Capitalism has pulled more people out of poverty than any other. It's the only system that basically works. Now it's highly flawed. I talk about this too. You have monopolies, you have antitrust. There's not really a name for it, but the fact of the matter is, everybody knows in the United States that the more money you have, the easier it is to make more. I mean, if you're at the bottom of the ladder, it's pretty freaking tough. It really is. Now, all that said, at least it works. You can look at all the theories, Marxism, all that sort of stuff. It's all crap. It does not actually work because there's two problems that they never mention right out the bat. There's no incentive and there's no concept of possession. Even little babies understand that sucker thing belongs to me. They know that. Possession is intrinsically built into the human psyche. And they want to cancel possession, and then they don't take into account incentive, that people will actually work more if they think they're getting something out of it. And you're not going to be able to change that either. That's human nature too. The only time this will change, and I've said this, and one of my liberal friends always holds this up, but the thing is, it is true. I'm not going to. That 300 years from now, when there's no scarcity, I mean, and Mark actually, he talked about this. The fact if there's no physical scarcity, socialism will then maybe work. It will, but that's the thing is, we're 300 years away from that. That's when we get that replicator machine they have in Star Trek. I talk about this all the time, but it's really, really true. Which can basically replicate physical objects the same way you can replicate a music file on your computer. It's basically it's a perfect copy, and it costs you nothing. At that point there will be no scarcity in society, and that is going to happen. We will figure that out. That's not where they're already figuring that out. I mean, we just now started making alloys now that are arranged on an atomic level. So I mean, this is where that's going to happen. But at any rate, right now, the communists need the capitalists to prop them up, which means it doesn't work. It's like, how many times do we have to do this? We've been trying this for 120 years now, at least, this whole thing of this communist experiment. And every single time, and I mentioned this in the show description tonight, but it's really true. Every single time people say, well, it wasn't done right. Bullshit. No, it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. That's all there is to it. So the Iranians, they had problems with, and on the other thing, I never mentioned this, the thing that David Strom brought up about the Iran situation is they're out of water. I mean, this is the thing. The Iranian as a government, their infrastructure just sucks. It sucks. These people can't do anything, it did not surprise me that we went in there militarily and cleaned their clock. They didn't. They're all talk and no action. They haven't actually done anything in years. So the whole country was literally running out of water. And it's not that they don't have any, they just can't get it to the places it needs to be. That's the problem. So you have Tehran, which is a city of, I think, about 5 or 6 million people. It's pretty large. There's 93 million people that live in Iran. It's twice the size of California. So they're running out of water. They don't have any water. In Cuba, they're running out of electricity, or they basically ran out of it. They're done. They can't seem to fund. So the cold pink people go over there. They take a chartered flight. They charter a flight over there, and they land, and they're staying in the single most expensive hotel in the whole country. 5-star. It's the only 5-star hotel in the whole place, because they need to, because that's, they're Westerners, so they need to be pampered. And then their rap group gives a concert, and the Cuban government actually arranges for just enough electricity to be in that hall during the concert. And when the concert's done, the electricity basically cuts out. And a reporter noticed that they didn't seem to notice, the people in the Code Pink contingent didn't seem to notice that the only single lights on in the entire Havana were in their hotel. If you looked out of their hotel, you saw nothing, because there was no electricity at all. And why? Because communism doesn't generate any money. That's why. The term people like to use is wealth. I don't like to use that term, because that it implies, like, the guaranteed affluence. But I'm not. No. So what people mean by wealth, or when I'm talking about money, is that capitalism actually generates money. It actually the whole system actually generates money, which is the reason America keeps getting richer and richer and richer, and all the countries that are emulating us, same thing. Well, Europe's having a problem because they're turning their back on capitalism, and they're getting fucked in the ass. Let me just say that, just point blank. Like, Strom was talking about the fact, the Germans, they were generating all this electricity by nuclear power, which is clean. I want to point that out. The nuclear power is a clean energy. There's no fossil fuel of pollution. That people say CO2, but CO2 is pollution. I don't want to get into that. So they and they destroyed them. They literally wrecked them. They blew them up, and now they don't have any power. Geez, I wonder how that happened. I just don't know. We have entered an age here, and we entered it about with the election of Trump. Although I think we were teetering on it even before he was elected, of literally some sort of mind virus stupidity that's inflicted the planet. I don't understand why everyone is so goddamn stupid. So here in Minneapolis, Bruce Springsteen has announced they're doing another No Kings protest. This one's going to be inside. It's going to be at the Minneapolis. No, it's at the St. Paul Convention Center, what's called River Place there. And because the reason I remember this is for this following fact. Bruce Springsteen is going to perform, and he said, it's a dark day in America because we're losing our right, we're losing our freedom, and we're losing our rights. How? Tell me how. This is the thing that bothers me about these liberals all the time, and that is they never actually can tell you why this stuff. Give a specific example of how this stuff is happening. They have no examples. There's none. And somebody on Hot Air today brought this up, and no. I'm listening to Joe Paggs driving around in the car. I'm listening to Joe Paggs, and he said, and I've been talking about this too, but I'm glad he brought it up, because not really people bring this up about the fact that in terms of the stuff with the stalemate with the ICE funding and the TSA funding and all this stuff, the Democrats consistently act like they are in the majority, and they aren't. Not only not only in the election itself, but even all the polling, even virtually all the polling for every single issue, they're underwater. It's unbelievable. So even at the height of all the ICE stuff that was going on in Minneapolis and the 2 people that got killed, even at the height of that, there was still a majority of people. It wasn't big, but it was a majority who still wanted all. Americans are really, really. My God, I'm really talking, aren't I? Americans are really, really set on getting the illegal criminals out of the country. That's an 80-20 issue, and it actually is. That's about the amount. The last thing I thought, 76% of all Americans want that happening. But what gets lost in this is like 53%. I've never seen it under 50%. 50 to 55% of Americans want all illegal aliens deported, all of them. And it has not budged. It hasn't changed, which is the reason I made my prediction, because I think when all is said and done, I think that the Democrats will end up getting blamed for this shutdown. You wouldn't get that impression listening to the press, but I think they actually will. It'll be a small percentage, but I think that's what's going to happen. And I hope that the Republicans don't cave, but Republicans are fantastic at caving. You know, it's like yes, I'm a conservative, and I'll be honest, I'm getting more conservative with every passing day. But am I a Republican? No, because most of the Democrats may be full of crap, but at least half the Republicans are too. So, Jesus, what do we do? I don't know, man. I can go on. I'll leave you with a couple of things here. Oh, by the way, we used to call this segment the snooze news. I've renamed it again. I'm calling it footnotes now. I'm sorry. This is the third time I've renamed it in a month. I know. It's like I understand, but yeah, we're gonna call it footnotes from now on, because it's not. I don't know. I just didn't sit right with me. It just didn't. But here's a couple more things. This is the 65th anniversary. On March 24th, 1961, NASA launched its Mercury Redstone rocket on a test, an unmanned test, and that basically started the space age in the United States 65 years ago today. Now, this is there's kind of a caveat to this. Before that launch, the first real launch into space was of Ham the chimpanzee, and that happened before that. And Ham did come back alive. He lived through it. And they used a Mercury capsule for that, but they had some significant problems. So they basically had to retool it. So this unmanned launch, that was actually the second launch, is considered the benchmark of when the space age started. That was 65 years ago today. And NASA announced today too that they're developing the Skyfall launch system to go to Mars. Now, the really interesting thing about this is going to be a spacecraft that's going to release 6 little helicopters into the Martian atmosphere, and they're going to fly around with cameras and sensors and all this sort of stuff and do a bunch of scientific stuff. But the real interesting thing about this vehicle is that it's going to be nuclear powered. Now, this is not okay. So I don't know if you know this. The Voyager spacecrafts and most of the interplanetary satellites we send up, probes we send up, are nuclear powered, in the sense that the electrical systems on board are nuclear powered. They have very, very small. They don't have to worry about radiation because there's nobody up there. So they have very, very small reactors. They're literally like the size of a microwave oven. And they create about 250 watts of electricity. Very, very little. But these spacecraft need very little. But the thing is, it's not for the propulsion system. This is going to be the first rocket that we've ever launched, I think anybody's ever launched ever, where the propulsion is going to be nuclear powered. And I don't understand how they call it highly efficient electrical propulsion, which I gotta admit, I don't know what that is. I don't know how that works. But the reactor on board is going to power nuclear or electrical thrusters. I don't know what electrical thrusters are, but anyway, that's how it's getting to Mars. So this is the first time we're ever going to try this. The Pioneer spacecraft, you don't have to understand this. I think it was launched like 51 or 52 years ago. Both 1 and 2 are both running. 52 years later, they're still sending data back to Earth because they use these small, very efficient little nuclear reactors to generate electricity, and they use very little electricity. And I have to say, these spacecraft were designed, the people who designed them really put a lot of thought in this. They were designed so that you could, as time went on and the nuclear fuel in these little reactors started to be spent, they designed the spacecraft so you could shut off systems one at a time. So now they're flying with less than half of their original systems running, but they're still sending back data. It's really amazing. I think it's that Voyager 2 that actually left, not only that completely left the solar system, if I'm right. I don't think the other one did, but it's out. It's the only human object out in interstellar space. It's out there. And finally, I want to give you an update on something we talked about yesterday. The fact that these 5 scientists have gone either missing or dead in the last few months. And the most prominent one was General William McCaslin, who left his home in Arizona on what day was it? It was, I think, March 11th, and hasn't been seen since. Well, Ross Coulthart from News Nation, he pointed this out, and he confirmed it too, because if you got the impression that the press was saying, well, it appears he went for a hike. And Coulthart found out, which I kind of starting to suspect, and that is there's no record of him leaving the house. In other words, his wife left him. She went shopping around 11 o'clock that day. And when she came back around noon, he was gone. But they've scoured all the ring cameras in the neighborhood, all the outdoor cameras. He lived in a pretty wild, wild area, whatever, And the hiking trails were outside his house. And he went hiking regularly. And it was just kind of assumed he went on a hike, but there's no record of him leaving. They found no cameras of him walking around the neighborhood. Of him, there's cameras on some of those trails. They've checked them all. There's no record of him leaving the house, let alone being on any trail. And so this Monica Riza woman, she went missing June 22nd, 2025, in the Angeles National Forest, where she went hiking on the popular Mount Waterman Trail with 2 other people who apparently were ahead of her on the trail. They're walking, and she was only 30 feet behind them, and apparently talking and laughing. And all of a sudden, they turned around and she wasn't there. She was gone. And she didn't fall into a crevice. They checked all that. It's like, it is really, really weird shit. Really weird shit. And these 2 people are very closely related. This Riza woman, she invented a new type of alloy that is used in military spacecraft and aircraft. And McCaslin was a general who actually picked up on her invention and then started to include it into military technology. They were kind of, for a while in their professional careers, joined at the hip. And the fact that they both went missing under really, really weird circumstances is people are starting to wonder. Of the other 3 scientists, 2 of them were assassinated in their house. One of them, they don't even know who did it. They caught the one guy, and who had a tie to the scientist. This was, I think, a guy at Harvard, if I'm right, who was working on nuclear fusion, and that was a disgruntled former classmate of his. So that guy had a personal motive. The other guy, they haven't figured out who shot him. Actually shot him on his, the guy went outside on his front porch on his house and got shot. It's just this is really crazy crap about what's going on here. And even McCaslin's wife has acknowledged the fact that he has ties to the UFO community. She's even publicly said that. She said that he had something to do with UFO research for a short period of time during his career. And people are saying it's actually, rumors are that's way longer than that, but those are just rumors. I'm having a woman coming on the show next Monday named Lisa Broderick, and she's going to, believe it or not, she's going to talk about time travel. But she was a little concerned when I asked her on the show. She was a little concerned. She said, you do a lot of speculation on your show. And I said, yes, I do. But I always point out that it's speculation. I want you guys, you folks understand this, right? That when I talk about rumors and stuff, they are rumors. When I talk about speculative technology, it's speculation. It's like, but I don't think I have to point that out. The only thing, and this is true, the only thing I'm really certain of is that extraterrestrials are coming to Earth. Now, where they're from, how they get here, I have no idea. I have some guesses, but I have no idea. But the fact that they're coming here, the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. So so I'm people who aren't involved in this say, well, there's no evidence. That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. So and that's the reason that's evidence based for me too. Anyway, she's coming on. We're gonna talk about time travel on Monday. So and on Thursday, we're taking tomorrow off, Wednesday off. On Thursday, Robert Borkin's going to be here, and I can't remember the name of his book, and I didn't write it down because I'm a mess. There you go. Now you know, don't you? I spend several hours every day putting the show together. Like, so you never know it, would you? Oh man. Anyway, I want to thank Mark Quann again. I'm going to buy his book. I'm serious. This is, this is the thing. You have to understand this, and that is the only reason really rich people get to avoid paying taxes because they know is their knowledge. It has nothing to do with the actual amount of money they have. So, or very little anyway. So it's like, buy Mark's book too. And of course, now I can't remember what that's called either. Hold just saying. I can check. I can look. I still have it here. It's called the Smart Pay Zero Taxes. That's what it's called. So Borton on Thursday, tomorrow off, Lisa Broderick on Monday to talk about time travel. And she's a scientist, so we're gonna hear from her. And I think we got most of next week already filled up too. I can't remember that on my head. I want to thank you folks for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm amiss of saying this, but if you're on YouTube or Rumble, God, like us or subscribe or something like that. I really appreciate that too. We're blowing up on TikTok, which is the only place we haven't blown up, but still, if you're on TikTok and watching this, well, the things you can't watch our whole show on TikTok, only the shorts, because the show's too long and the files are too big. So I'm going to see if we can do something about that. But we'll see. We'll find out. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. And good night to you, wherever you may be. We're taking tomorrow night off. Wednesday night, we'll be back on Thursday night with Robert Borton. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.